Hi there and welcome back to Bernama. Today still with me, Jessie Chahal. In the studios I have with me our guest for today, Mr. Leon Pereira, CEO of Spire Research and Consulting. How are you, Leon?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me on the show, Jessie.
Pleasure, definitely a pleasure. Now, even more pleasure to talk about this particular theory or method. Now, of course, Spire Research and Consulting is a research and management consulting company, and we're talking about this particular theory called the lipstick effect. Now, tell us, what is this lipstick effect all about?
Well, the lipstick effect is something that has been observed by generations of analysts and economists, and essentially it's about how when the economy actually takes a turn for the worse, people start to treat themselves to small luxuries. People spend small amounts of money on things that can give them a little psychological boost, can cheer them up, and without spending too much money. And the way this translates for female consumers is through purchases of cheap cosmetics and primarily lipstick. So this was first observed in the 1930s and the Great Depression. Women were buying lots and lots of lipstick to put on a brave face when times were tough, and also to give themselves a little boost with very little cost.
Yes, it's that it's a famous term that we call retail therapy. Of course, at a very minimal sort of level, instead of splurging, right? So people kind of look into these small little gifts for themselves to make them feel better.
Absolutely.
Feel and look better.
Absolutely.
That's right. Okay, so where did this term come from? How was it derived? What is its origins?
Well, the effect was first observed in the Great Depression. The term, the lipstick effect, was actually coined by Leonard Lauder, who was the former chairman of Estee Lauder. So they noticed that lipstick sales and some of the lower cost cosmetic sales always went up during a time of economic recession, during a time of economic downturn. And this relationship has actually held true if you look at the whole span of history since then. If you look across many different countries, for example, after the September 11th attacks in 2001 in the US, lipstick sales actually surged for a short while, as many female consumers, feeling anxious, expecting difficult times, actually treated themselves to lipstick more. So the quantity of lipstick that was purchased actually increased a lot, even though probably the average price of the lipstick that was being sold fell.
That's right. So although it's called the lipstick effect, and namely we look at females, but overall it is a theory that applies to all consumers, all different age groups and segments of consumers, right?
It would in general. Yeah, I think you'd see this effect in different ways, but the most pronounced and direct, I think, is lipstick with female consumers. But you do see this with other consumers as well. Men may treat themselves to outings with the guys, to drinks, so
binge drinking.
possibly in some contexts it might turn out that way.
Okay, so let's sort of from this global idea, let's sort of localize this. And how does this affect Malaysians when our economy is not doing so well, as opposed to what maybe in 2009, 2010 our economies were not doing as well? How has it affected Malaysians?
Well, I think you make a very good point in drawing attention, Jessie, to 2009, when the Malaysian economy and many economies in the world went through a very difficult time. So we in Spire Research and Consulting, we looked at the data in Malaysia from 2008 all the way up to 2010 and 2011. We looked at the import volume and value of lipstick. And what we found was that in 2009, something very interesting happened. The value of lipstick, the total import value in US dollars, was about the same, but the volume really surged from about 650,000 kilograms to about 1.3 million kilograms just in that 1 year of 2009. And of course, Jessie, as you'll remember, that was the year when the Malaysian economy was in recession. It was after the collapse of Lehman in late 2008.
That's right.
And many economies in the world were in recession. Many people were feeling anxious, were feeling worried about whether they could hold on to a job. And in Malaysia, how that manifested was lipstick sales really surged. But the average price of the lipstick actually fell.
Yes.
The import price from about $20 per kilogram. This is import prices, of course, not
the supply and demand sort of very economic.
Yes, it actually halved to about $10 just in that year. So women were buying a lot more lipstick in Malaysia, but it was cheaper lipstick in that year.
Wow, I don't remember buying any lipsticks. I'm a lip gloss user, but that's a different story altogether. So obviously these stats have helped Malaysian companies, cosmetic companies, to sort of plan their marketing and plan their, how they're going to roll out the plans for the rest of the year. It really helped them in planning. I know I used the word many times, but in terms of how they're going to approach their consumers, right? So what is this application now? Like when everything sort of stabilizes, what happens to the lipstick effect?
Well, it is backward-looking and to some extent forward-looking as well. I think the purchase of lipstick does reflect the state of mind of female consumers. Female consumers are driving a lot of purchasing in the economy. They make decisions for a lot of household consumer products. So, it's backward-looking in the sense that people will react to events that have happened. For example, this lipstick effect was seen in Japan as well. Last year, there was a terrible earthquake, the Tohoku earthquake, and shortly after that earthquake in northeast Japan, lipstick sales also surged. So cosmetics companies like Pola and Shiseido, they also saw that effect on their sales. So it is looking backward, but it's also looking forward. It does reflect the state of mind of consumers, and it does reflect what they think about, how the economy will be like, what their own personal situation will be like in terms of their job, in terms of their purchasing power. So it is both a backward-looking and a forward-looking indicator. How it helps business, I think, is by tracking the sales of these small luxury items, be they lipstick, be they ice cream treats, high-end ice cream, the small luxuries that we treat ourselves to when we feel that we need a pick-me-up, but we can't afford to spend so much money. By tracking the sales of these kinds of items, companies can get an insight into the state of mind of the consumer and what their expectations are for the future, and companies can plan accordingly, make their investments accordingly.
So through your research in this area of the lipstick effect, what have been the other exciting findings that you've come across?
Well, I think when you look at the whole area of small luxuries, this applies to other product categories. In our experience in Spire as a research company, we have seen this happening with, for example, ice cream. We've seen this happening with, for example, the restaurant sector, the food service sector, where there is some degree of relationship between people treating themselves to a good meal and feeling anxious about their future. So the lipstick effect, even though we talk about lipstick, because that's where the relationship, I think, is most direct, and in Malaysia statistics bear it out, but it applies to a whole range of things. And I think we've seen this lipstick effect in other countries that we have looked at across the Spire group. Certainly I mentioned America after the September 11th attacks, and Japan after the Tohoku earthquake last year. Also in Australia, after the 2008-09 recession, the sales of nail paint actually surged for a very short while. There was one of the commentators in Australia actually called that the canary in the coal mine. So that was a sign that Australian consumers were expecting difficult times. In Europe, we've seen that as well. In 08-09, again, the sales from mass market high volume products of L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, and companies like that actually did very, very well, even though the economy was going through arguably the worst recession since the 1930s. So it's an effect that can be seen across countries, across cultures all around the world, and it applies to a whole range of small luxury products. So the interesting thing for companies is, maybe they can tap into this when times are hard. Look at the cheaper items that you can sell that give a good psychological boost to consumers. And when times are good, of course, consumers are willing to spend more, so then you can focus on more high margin products. That's
right. But the reason I was smiling is because women, wherever we are in the world, obviously have the same habits. So we're all after the nail polish, or in this case the lipstick. But you did set a very sort of important and pertinent point, that urging companies to now offer, at a time when the economy is not so good, to offer a product that is more more cheaper and more applicable to the mass public. So what sort of other products do you think will appeal, or what kinds of other products that are within this range, and not just cosmetics?
Well, I think for small luxuries, you have food treats, chocolate, for example, ice cream. You have the whole food service sector, possibly the event sector as well. People may go to the movies for a pick-me-up. So then the movie prices need to be affordable, there need to be good promotions, there need to be good movies, of course,
Yes.
rather than depressing movies, uplifting movies, feel-good movies. So this applies to a number of product categories. It could potentially apply to low-cost gadgets, IT gadgets that people can buy at a low cost, but it brings some enjoyment to their life in terms of the way they enjoy their lives, their lifestyle. So it could apply to actually a range of different products. And I think how it's applicable as well is to bear in mind that when the economy picks up, then companies can look at more expensive products, higher margin products, because people then are more confident about their future. They are willing to spend more
That's right.
on higher margin products.
So it's all about sort of reinvention and being flexible in adjusting to the consumers and their spending power at any one point of time. Well, definitely a fantastic insight. Thank you so much, Leon, and of course Spire Research and Consulting will be conducting and will always be providing this sort of services in terms of research and market knowledge. I'd like to thank you so much for being on the show today. That's all the time we have today, so go out there and if you're feeling like a pick-me-up, definitely think of a lipstick. You're not the only one doing it. All the ladies are also doing it all around the world. Well, do join us tomorrow, same time, same place. That's it for Bernama today. See you tomorrow. Bye.